In distinguished UT alumni George Fancher's article, Henry Darcy, Engineer and Benefactor of Mankind, he described Henry Darcy's life as being evaluated eloquently by a colleague in the words of lover of science, devoted to the public good, and absolutely devoid of self-interest. Henry Darcy was an influential figure in the fields of hydrology and engineering. Howdy, I'm Jackson Smith, an environmental engineer that wants to go into water resource management. As you can imagine, Henry Darcy is quite the role model for me. I believe that we can all learn something from him, even 150 years after he lived, in the fact that he cared so well for others, he knew how to persevere, and he believed that nothing was ever set in stone. He truly was, as his colleague described him, devoid of all self-interest. He was devoid of all self-interest in the fact that he cared for others' well-being. In Henry Darcy and the Fountains of Dijon, by a distinguished hydrologist R. Allen Fries, he describes a situation in which Henry Darcy brought water from a spring 7 miles north of Dijon to the city of Dijon, his hometown. As you can see pictured behind me is one of the water towers of said system. This was groundbreaking because it had never been done before and took a painstaking and laborious 5 years. Yet the selfless part is that at the end of the 5 years, Darcy denied pay, only asking that he got a lifetime supply of water from the city. Additionally, in a conference that was supposed to plan a train route from Paris to Lyon, Darcy was consulted. And in this railroad, Darcy walked into this meeting, and the two plans on the table were one going from Paris to Lyon and another going from Paris to Lyon, but they were nowhere near his home city of Dijon. And he wanted to bring prosperity and business to the city of Dijon for his people. And so, using his influence and his intellect, he was able to change the coordinators' minds and come out in hand with the plans for a railroad that would go through Dijon. How amazing. Additionally, in Henry Darcy and the Poteau Tube by Glenn Brown, another distinguished author, he describes the Poteau Tube as a device that would be used for water flow, to measure the speed at which water flows. Darcy made some modifications to this device where it was extremely patentable, and he could have made a ton of money off of it. However, he released the plans to the public for the common good and for the interest of others. He truly was selfless, and I believe he was selfless because of his humble upbringing. In his humble upbringing, Darcy truly needed to persevere. In Henry Darcy and the Making of a Law by distinguished author Glenn Brown, it is revealed that Darcy grew up without a father and depended on his mother for his education. As you can imagine, that is quite the adversity in the 1800s, as women did not have adequate education. However, Darcy accepted a city scholarship and enrolled at the College of Dijon, enrolling in the schools of polytechnics as well as the School of Bridges and Highways, which is the modern-day engineering school. Additionally, in the Dijon Water Project, according to George Fancher, it was attempted 4 centuries. 4 centuries of engineers had attempted to bring water to Dijon, and all had failed. Additionally, there were 7 miles between the spring and the city of Dijon. When Darcy did this, he had to take 18 months of his time just to negotiate with landowners between the 2 locations to get the land rights in order to bring water all the way south to the city. This is such an act of perseverance, and the fact that he dedicated so much time and energy to it. Again, with Darcy's law, which is a law that is used daily to measure fluid flow rates, even now among modern day engineers, George Fancher writes that the impressive part of this law is that Darcy found it and discovered it and wrote it while he was ill, just a few years before he died. He was no stranger in the face of adversity. And I believe because of this, he truly was a trailblazer. One quality that trailblazers need is that they need to believe that nothing is ever set in stone. In the case of the Dijon Water Project, he believed it was not set in stone and that he could actually do it, and he believed in himself. And he attempted something that had not been accomplished in 4 centuries of effort. He also beat the neighboring capital, Paris, by 25 years in this form of infrastructure. What a feat to bring water to your local city. Additionally, with the Poteau Tube, which you can see behind me, And Glenn Brown states that the Pitot tube designed by Henry Pitot was very impractical in measuring flow rate and did not have any chance beyond the intense scientific realm. However, with Darcy's modifications, the Pitot tube became widespread and still affects our instruments today as engineers measure flow rates across the globe. With the Dijon train situation, he made Dijon an option. He put Dijon on the map, and he walked into that meeting and believed that it wasn't going to be so, and it wasn't going to be set in stone, and he put Dijon on the map. Even though it was more expensive, he went to war for his people and brought them prosperity. I believe we should mimic these qualities as leaders in the modern day world. Henry Darcy was quite the influential figure and took the water situation in Dijon from this, carrying buckets of water, to where they could have a spring bubbling forth with life. He cared about others' well-being, he knew how to persevere, and he knew that nothing was set in stone, so he could accomplish his goals. I say we mimic these as leaders and be lovers of science, devoted to the public good, and absolutely devoid of self-interest. Thank you. Also, here are my cards. So this is introduction. That's slide 1, slide 2, slide 3, and slide 4. Thank you.